Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome back to my romance era. Enough of me selecting my TBR, the community selecting my TBR. This time professionals are in charge of the romance I'm gonna read. There are 3 platforms I tried out before where I get custom book recommendations. The first 2 are free, the other one is paid. There's my local library, my bookstore, and my TBR.co. So as I've already talked through some of my favorite tropes with you, I'm going to send those tropes to these professionals, and in a couple days I'll let you know what they came back with and what they told me that I needed to read. Something that I'm not sure I've fully established so far in this series is that all of these intros, the first 4 videos, are all being filmed at the same time. So it's not like I made the TBR for the first video, read all those books, moved on to video number 2, then video number 3, then here we are. At this point, I have completed not a single romance book. I wanted all of these different things to be on the same playing field. I wanted everything to start at the same time so we could kind of compare at the end who won. Was it the professionals? Was it me? Was it statistics? Was it the community? Or is it Goodreads? So what my local library wants to know is they have 2 questions. What are you in the mood for? And what other media have you previously enjoyed? I'm establishing that I'm looking for adult romance recommendations. I typically read thrillers, horror, fantasy books, and I love when they have a romance subplot. I gave some examples that they're not the best examples. The Beautiful Ones, The 5th Season, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, Finley Donovan. And now I'm looking for romance that's the #1 genre and main focus, but I would still like there to be subgenres and subplots that are interesting. I listed a couple tropes, like I love fake dating, rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers, and anything involving sports or competitions. As far as what I don't want, because they did ask what to avoid in the recommendations, I just said I don't want famous characters or relationship power dynamics that are explored, like boss, employee, student, teacher. I'm not interested in that, or like pregnancy storylines. Trying out this service before, I did have a mix of results, and it ended up with like a 2-star read by the end and a 5-star read, so that's cool. And I'm excited to see what they come back with and who is going to be recommending my books. And then for Indigo, they have a couple other questions, but they very much limit the amount of characters that you're allowed to include. So I just said I'm looking for adult romance. I'm typically a thriller, horror, mystery. I filled out all of the same stuff, but also wanted to include some examples. So I listed some of my favorite couples and their dynamics, like from shows that I've enjoyed. I also established my preference for own voices when it comes to LGBTQIA+ books and authors of color being preferred. And then my TBR.co, which is the paid service, has a lengthier thing to fill out. I'm essentially giving all the same information, though I am being really thorough in like favorite books I didn't like, a bunch of favorite movies. My experience with recommendations from Indigo was good. I ended up with a 4-star read. And from my TBR, the last time I did it, I had Chelsea give me 3 recommendations that all ended up being 5 stars. So it was a fantastic experience. And for the first time, I'm clicking expand my literary horizons instead of keep it familiar, because I'm usually looking for really specific things that I think I'll like and that I want to build a video around. And this time, I need something completely outside my normal reads. I also included the fact that I think I'm really into the touch her and kill you vibes. Just because one time I saw a Twitter thread that was like, I need recommendations for the touch her and I'll kill you kind of feeling. And so many of my favorite relationships and shows were in that list. Something I'm wondering about romance readers is when you talk about romance that you love, do you feel like you're exposing your own preferences? Or do you feel like people assume that your favorite things are in books are your personal favorite things, as far as like partners go and qualities and relationship dynamics? Because the tropes and things that I'm looking for, I think are just fun to read, and they're not necessarily my own preference or something that exists in my own relationship. But I have this weird feeling like I'm exposing something about myself, and like, what if I ended up reading something that was like, I'm trying to think of something I wouldn't pick up, like an age gap, old man, like sugar daddy, sugar baby, mob boss, BDSM romance. What if I picked that up and for some reason? And what if I loved it for some reason? I feel like people would be like, oh, Kayla likes old men. Like we learned about her preferences. And that makes me feel uncomfortable. So since this video will be very custom recommendations, maybe I can talk through why those tropes are enjoyable for me throughout the actual reading. But first, I'm gonna wait a couple days for the responses to come in, my recommendations to show up, and I'll talk those through with you. I just got my email from my TBR.co and I'm so nervous. So it says, "Hi Kayla, it's so nice to be recommending for you again. I'm on a bit of a recommending hiatus. Does this mean Chelsea? This must mean that Chelsea is the one doing my recommendations. I was so excited to see you had enjoyed your last set of picks from me that I had to come and give you some new ones. I hope you enjoy these just as much. This time around, I'm recommending a hilarious rom-com about a chronically ill woman who decides to finally live her life, an own voices romance of an autistic woman and an escort she hires to help her get more comfortable with intimacy. I know what that one is. And a delightful read about a campus podcast host who ends up fake dating a new student to land an important internship. I don't know what that is. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, it's Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Oh, this is so exciting. This recommendation totally makes sense to me. Also, the second one that I know is about to come. So let's just get to that one. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. These make sense to me because I am a beginner in romance. So like these are kind of basic recommendations, but I think that's the right choice for me because these are like popular, well-loved things. Talia Hibbert writes some of the funniest, most romantic novels right now. This one follows titular Chloe, whose chronic illness has led her, see, I didn't know that, to live a life much smaller than she imagined for herself. Now determined to finally get a life, she makes a list. Ooh, I love a list. And invites her building's annoyingly hot handyman, Red, to help her see it through. This one's got a life enemies to lovers thing going on, and both Chloe and Red have satisfying arcs outside of their relationship. Oh, that's so exciting. And then we have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, which exactly as she just said it there, that's all I know about it. She hires someone to teach her about intimacy. This is an own voices romance written by an autistic Asian American author about a successful math whiz, Stella, who's got lots of money, Asperger's, and very little dating experience. Determined to practice, Stella hires Michael, an escort who's more than happy to help her conquer her lesson plan. Of course, the two are super attracted to each other, and a relationship originally built on logic starts to turn into something more. I love that. Now, lastly, is the one about a podcast. And I definitely don't know, well, I know there's a book called The X Talk, and I know there's like a microphone on the cover. And then I feel like I know about another romance with a microphone on the cover, but that's all I've got. So it is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. I feel like I know this cover. Actually, now I can scroll down to the bottom because I think, oh yeah, okay, this is a Reese's Book Club pick, which I knew, and I definitely did not associate this with romance. Like, I've seen this cover before, and I thought, like a lot of Reese's Book Club picks, they were just like literary fiction or like motherhood stories, like women navigating circumstances, and then a lot of them have like a little side relationship, but I wouldn't call them romance. At least that's my interpretation of a lot of her book club picks. This one is fun, funny, and just really delightfully warm. It's set at a UK university where podcast host Kiki has made a bit of a name for herself, offering advice to the other young women on campus. But when the infuriating, alluring Malachi arrives, throwing Blackwell into chaos, Kiki's attempts to take him down a peg only serve to ignite an undeniable attraction between the two of them. That sounds like, what's that one? Katherine Heigl and Gerard Butler. I did love those vibes. Complicated further by an agreement to enter a fake dating relationship to further their respective creative projects. In addition to the fake dating, this one's also got the touch her and I'll kill you vibe. Oh my god, I would have had no idea looking at the cover that that was the tone. I think I am gonna do all three because I trust my TBR and Chelsea to guide me in this way, and then I'll pick one from the library and one from Indigo. Today in my inbox, I got emails from both my local library and Indigo with book recommendations. So first, let's check out what Indigo had to say. I'm so nervous. If some romantic fantasy is your vibe, you could try Nalini Singh's Guild Hunter series. The first book is Angel's Blood, set in a world where angels rule over vampires. Let me click it and see what the cover looks like. I'm so scared. Oh god. Okay. Okay, next recommendation. I'm not sure if this exactly falls into what you're looking for, but you might like Wicked and the Wallflower by Sarah MacLean. Romance, yes. Regency, yes. Pirates, sort of. Okay. And this cover looks like what? I'm not judging. I'm just, oh no. I mean, I love pink. All right. And one more that falls into the contemporary category, The Boyfriend Project by Farah Rashan. I read this one a couple years ago. It's very charming. After a disaster of a date that ends up going viral, Samaya decides to take a break from the dating scene, work on some new friendships, herself, and an app she wants to develop, which of course is when she meets Daniel. I don't need to look at this cover because I've seen it. Thank you so much, Kate from Ask Indigo, for sending those to me. Much to think about. And then from my library. Okay, who sent this to me? We have to check first. Oh, Otilia. Okay, that's someone new I haven't talked to before. Based on your submission, here are some books I think you would enjoy. Into the Fury by Martin Catt. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. After a group of lingerie models are threatened, Ethan Brody is brought on to protect them. Okay, next, The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I know that one. A wedding planner left at the altar. Oh, she has to collaborate with her best man from her own failed nuptials. Then we've got Beach Read by Emily Henry, an acclaimed but blocked literary master and a best-selling novelist. Oh, the author in the book, not Emily Henry. I was like, what do you mean she's blocked? The Hunting Game by Sally Thorne. Oh, that's The Hating Game. Okay, I know that one. I'm not interested in reading that one, and I've also already seen the movie. And then Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata, who is an author I've heard of before. And I know I've heard that title before, but I didn't know they were connected. Vanessa knows she's doing the right thing. She shouldn't feel bad for quitting. Being an assistant housekeeper, fairy godmother to the top defensive end in the National Football Organization was always supposed to be temporary. Oh, I've definitely never seen that cover. Okay, interesting. What have I heard of from her? Everyone was talking about something. Oh, from Lukov with Love. I didn't know that. Was this a romance? Because I thought it was like a thriller because I had somebody recommend it to me. Okay, those are our options. I have secured 4 of the 5 books. The Kiss Quotient, I think I'm like 10th in line and there's only 3 copies at the library, so that'll come eventually. And I need to pick what my first read is going to be. Tomorrow, we're going on our final summer activity. We're going on a float down the river. I just bought this giant floaty. Me and my giant floaties. It's a love affair. Something else I found that I'm so excited about, where did I put it? Is I found this waterproof bag. It's not just water resistant, it's fully waterproof. And I'm wondering, can I fit a book in here? I obviously wouldn't risk bringing a library book, so those 2 are out right away. And then obviously this being a big hardcover, it probably won't fit. Oh, also this is not the cover that I saw. But I found this in the section of Indigo, the table that says Book Talk Favorites. So who knew? Everyone probably knew, not me. But my library had a really long wait and there wasn't a wait for this one. So I got this book from Indigo that was recommended by the library. And then the book from the library that was recommended by Indigo. Where's the opportunity to take a cute Instagram picture with floaty in the background? Okay, we're headed on our float now. Rob's just stopping getting smoothies. And we just stopped at like the German candy store, which is the only place that sells my little gummy pig. So I'm gonna have these on my float journey. I haven't had these in so long. They're my favorite. I talked about them before and everybody on my Instagram story was like, what are those pigs? That's weird. Listen, they're so good. And they kind of match the book I'm reading. I started it on this. I read the first, I think, 2 chapters. And I don't think I quite realized the dynamic. So this woman is like, I would say the nanny to this NFL player. I don't know why I thought it was more like she was the assistant to the whole team, or like she had more involvement like with NFL in general, not just somebody who like hangs out at this guy's house and like wipes his ass. But the setup is she just quit and she is moving on to bigger, better things. She's a graphic designer. Very cool. Love when I connect to a character like that. So far I'm fine with the writing. I find that with romance, I can tell like in the first chapter if not the story itself, because who knows, but the writing, it either works for me or it's rougher than I expect. And with a lot of the new adult I've read in the past, it was all rough. But I've heard good things about this author and her other thing, Lukov with Love. Oh, my husband has spotted me. That has been recommended to me a good amount too. So I'm thinking about doing a little spin-off series from this of the authors that I enjoyed, reading another thing from them. Anyway, I gotta drink my smoothie. Sorry, there's nowhere to park. The parking spaces are so skinny. Thank you. Oh,
that's Liam.
That's what he drinks? Oh my god. That's so much orange juice. It just tastes like a cup of orange juice and sugar. Here's my confession. It's been, I think, 2 weeks and I'm having a really hard time convincing myself to pick this back up. Just because I'm exhausted. It's been 5 chapters of just the same thing, and I think it is taking a turning point now, but I can't read any more about how much this woman is so miserable working for this man. I don't know what I want, but it's not this. This man is a jerk. And I think that there's something appealing about the idea of a guy being an asshole in a romance book, and then his personality changes and you find out he was like soft and gentle all along, or the main character is like bringing that out in him and he has the opportunity to be his true self now that he can open up and like really be vulnerable and let someone in. Like, I understand the concept of that being appealing, but that also has to be balanced with a person who doesn't become irredeemable. Like, they can't be so much of a terrible person that you as the reader get convinced that they're just a terrible person. But she at this point doesn't seem like she's attracted to him, but he has all of these negative qualities. Like, it seems like she hates his guts and he has all these negative qualities, and I just want her to go be happy with someone else. So after 5 chapters and 80 pages, she has officially quit. It took a long time and a lot of complaining to get here, and me putting down and picking up the book, you know, 5 different times. I read a little bit on the river, but not very much. I read a little bit in the car, but not very much. And now I am committed. I'm gonna read this today. Okay, listen. Oh, I'm having like an allergic reaction to something, so that's devastating. The person who recommended this to me, I feel like you didn't tell me why you were recommending this to me, but there is a trope in here that I very much enjoy and want, and I feel like I can't talk about the trope now because it's not in the synopsis. Why is it not in the synopsis? Because the thing that kind of kicks off their whole relationship, like, there's a thing that happens, and maybe I'm on board. I still don't like him. I'm hoping my mind will be changed. I'm surprised by the direction this is going, and I'm intrigued. I'm 2/3 of the way through, and I'm gonna finish it tomorrow. I think it's, sorry if you can hear Rob doing the dishes. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know that I really care about these characters at this point, but that's okay. And I have no real issues with the book, so that's, I consider that a win. There was one moment that bothered me where he was getting like groped by one of his fans in public, and Vanessa like was laughing about it and kind of making fun of him for it, even though he was taking it very seriously and was like, that shouldn't have happened, that doesn't happen to me. But no big plot issues. I think her mentioning how giant he is on every single page is getting a little bit much to read. Like, obviously he's big and strong and an NFL player, and he's a giant, and he's very tall, and he wears the largest shoes at the store, and he has the biggest hands, and when they hold hands, his hand swallows hers up. And I'm cool with all of the size descriptions, height descriptions. When it veers more into his weight, because I weigh the same as a fictional NFL player. So when she says things like, he sat on the stool, which is in his own house, which he's had for years, so obviously he buys a stool that works. She's surprised that more than one butt cheek fits on the stool and that it doesn't collapse under his weight. So that's always nice to hear. Right now, they're just, you know, helping each other through various experiences. There are some events and activities that they are attending, but it would kind of spoil the plot to talk about those things. So it really is their romance at the forefront. It's definitely not a fun romance to me, but it's not too serious. I wouldn't put it in the rom-com category. I wouldn't put it in like a sweeping, intense romance. I wouldn't put it in like a hard-hitting category. It just is. Okay, here are my final thoughts. I really, firstly, think that this book could have really benefited from also being from Aiden's POV. There are a couple moments where there was maybe an encounter or he was leaving the room where our main character was left with a little bit of like insecurity and wondering about his thought process, and getting his thought process after that instead of just being in her head, I think would have been great, because we kind of never really came back to what he was thinking in all of these moments. It's just more implied. Here's my thing though with Aiden. He really was a boring character. He didn't have a lot of personality. And this is where I'm starting to wonder about my own ratings. It's like, no, I don't see this character, this love interest, as being somebody that I would find appealing. So if I did, would I have rated it higher? Maybe. I'm very much a girl who believes that the way that you treat people in the service industry just says a lot about you, says the most about you, and determines like what I think of you and your desirability. So all of these encounters beyond just like not speaking to an employee of his for 2 years, even though they spent every day, all day together, not talking to her, not answering her questions, you know, avoiding eye contact for 2 years. Like outside of that, just every single person who he says things like, you work for me and I pay you to do this, and not giving people in public the time of day unless they're like fawning over him as a football player. I understand there's more like nuance there when fame is involved and the way that like people treat you and you treat people, but I don't even think we really got that side of his personality that much, and maybe we could have if we got it from his POV. But you're not going to find me lusting over a man after 2 years of him treating me like shit because I was beneath him and now I'm not, like I get the time of day. Absolutely not. But it's not about that. It's about Vanessa. And do I believe that Vanessa would put up with that? I don't know, because I think the book implies that she is an Aries, as am I. Do I think that they're good for each other and the things that they each want? Can I be happy for them? Yeah. And I think the epilogue clearly lays out what their life looks like, and good for them. For me, it is like a 3. It's pretty average. I don't think I'm ever going to think about these people again. I did find Vanessa to be an enjoyable character. She was opinionated, confident, she was thoughtful. You got to know her passions and her interests and her friends and the things that she cared about outside of this relationship, even though it was very much the relationship and not much other plot. They weren't together for very long, like it's a very slow burn, and I think it's good for me to know that I can enjoy, pacing wise, a 500-page romance. 3 stars. I think I'll read from this author again. Now I'll talk to you next time I pick up a book. Okay, Liam and I are playing tennis today. I brought Chloe Brown with me. Look how pretty and cute Chloe looks. Like she's wearing, it looks like a little tennis skirt. I'm just getting my shoes on. So I'm actually halfway through, and I didn't want to update you until I started liking the book, but that hasn't happened yet. I just feel like the only person on the planet who doesn't like Chloe Brown. Where did that go? I will admit that I made a mistake because I listened to the first like 25% on audio, and I do unfortunately think that's contributing to my feelings, because it's like a 60-year-old woman narrating, and Chloe's, I don't know, it's kind of like supposed to be a sexy book. Chloe's young and fun and like love her, but just narrating this book, it's not working for me. So there's Chloe and there's Red. She comes from a wealthy family and she's wanting to branch out on her own, get a life. And so she's moving out on her own for the first time, and she gets to know like the superintendent, Red. He's just kind of a normal guy, and we're just learning his soft side. Pretty early in the book we get a scene from him fantasizing about Chloe after like talking to her one time, and he's kind of giving me the ick. And the scene from him just like getting his jollies off, like the language involved in that scene, listening to a 60-year-old woman describe that, it was not a good time for me, and I feel like it is like affecting my perception of him a little bit. So now for the last 25% I've been reading it physically, and I think I don't know, I just need to get on board with these characters, mostly the love interest and their relationship. I think Chloe's fine as a character so far, but I don't think I'm rooting for them. But anyway, I'm gonna go kick Liam's butt at tennis, and then I'll read some more. You know what though? People have been telling me that I think it's the 3rd book in the series. People have told me that I should definitely read that. I don't know if it was like over Chloe Brown, but I think people said if you don't like Chloe Brown, still go pick up the rest of the series. So I think I will still consider that. I need some practice with my tennis game. Liam and I have successfully lost 3 balls. One's in a tree, one's stuck behind this thing, and now one is above this thing. Hello, excuse me. This is what you heathens have been reading this entire time? This beautiful, pretty, illustrated, stunning, cute little Chloe Brown with this type of language? How do you look each other in the eye knowing that you have read this filth? I'm scandalized. Good God. Okay. I do know that this is by no means the smuttiest thing out there, nor is it the filthiest thing that I've read for this video series. However, I am just surprised by the amount of sex that's in here. It is explicit. Not that I thought it would be like fade to black moments, but there are a lot more sex scenes than I expected. When I look at the Goodreads, every single review uses the word cute and adorable and precious and sweet as their ` identifier of this book. So I was not prepared. I'm not some delicate flower who can't handle these scenes. It's just that there was a lot of them. Half this book was sex. And if I was enjoying the sex scenes, I probably would have been cool with it, but I wasn't. I don't like how these characters were talking. I don't like the language that was used. It made me uncomfortable. And I hate when characters' personalities change so much in the bedroom. So I've been talking about this since 2016. The characters always lose their entire personality during a sex scene. And instantly the man has to be like sexy and sensual and know exactly what he's doing. And even if he's been like snarky and funny or geeky, suddenly when they're having sex, he's a totally different person. But you know, it's not that I was loving their dynamic in real life and then not liking it in the bedroom, or vice versa. I wasn't really on board with them the entire time, but that's such an unfair thing to say because there was nothing wrong with their relationship. There was nothing problematic here. It is a very sweet and loving and supportive dynamic. They're both going through stuff. Red talks about a relationship that he was in that was very harmful, and I feel like that's not representation that we see a lot. So I loved a lot of things that were brought up, and even though it got dramatic and there were arguments and it got tense, the way that they came back to each other was very healthy. And them as characters, objectively, they're fine people. Like, I have no problems. I just didn't like it. And I wish I knew if it was just this dynamic or if it's Talia Hibbert in general. Should I pick up more in this series? I think I probably should. Now I feel like I'm betraying my relationship between me and TBR.co and wonderful Chelsea for recommending this, but it's a 2. All right, the kiss quotient has arrived, and I thought it was gonna create this beautiful color story because it's like pinks and yellows and orange, but there's a little bit of blue on Chloe's skirt. And the book I reserved, it was just gonna make this beautiful palette of colors until it turned out to be the mass market paperback. I am an illustrated cover girly, so I don't love it, but I'm sure it'll be just fine to read. I decided to try out the audiobook, and I don't like it. So I don't know if I've just been picking bad audiobooks or if like the timing of these ones were before audiobook narrators really got well chosen. I don't know. I don't want to say anything mean, but like the audiobook was not working for me. So at this point I've met Stella, and she indeed has met a man named Michael who's an escort who isn't really interested in her proposal but decides to go with it anyway, where he's going to create a lesson plan teaching her various things about intimacy. He's already challenging her. This book moved very quickly, got to it right away. He's already questioning like her perception of herself in intimate encounters versus what he sees in her and the traits that she has that are already like positive and experienced in this setting. There's a list right here if you want an example of the type of things that she's looking to excel at. So let me get to like 100 pages of the physical reading experience and then I'll tell you how it's going. Okay, so I read 100 pages and that actually took me to exactly the halfway point. There's a lot of reasons to enjoy this. It's charming. Obviously, I, want to root for these characters. There is something just in my head when I read romance where no matter how experienced the people are, there's like this romantic feeling of like, this person made me feel this way for the first time. I never knew I could feel this way until this person. And it always happens in romance, and I can objectively see why it's romantic, but I don't know why it just doesn't land for me. It feels, I don't know what it feels like. I actually don't know how to explain my feelings about it, because it accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do and makes the love interest just seem like the most incredible being ever. So like, Michael is a sex worker, but he has never you know, gotten attached to any of his clients, ever felt anything towards any of his clients until Stella. And Stella has never encountered a moment where she didn't feel touch-averse until she met Michael. And so like, that's great. There's something about it that makes me feel weird, and I can't explain it, so I'm not going to. I want to like Michael as a love interest, but I don't yet. I feel like there are so many moments where he is showing like the importance of consent, and I'm like, that's great. But then like, he's starting to get a little like controlling. He is supposed to be teaching her stuff, but I almost feel like he is doing things to benefit him more than for her to learn how to be in a relationship. And obviously like, he wants to be in a relationship with her, and she wants to be in a relationship with him. So it is like a positive thing, but it's another thing that's making me feel weird. It's an interesting style because a lot of times in romance, like obviously it's progressing to get more and more romantic or more and more sexual, but this one started out with so many sex scenes, and now Stella has decided that she wants him to be her fake boyfriend as opposed to just like teaching her stuff, and she doesn't want the sex to be the focus of what they're up to. So I'm interested to see how that pans out, what goes on from here. We're getting to know him and his family and his childhood more than Stella's, and I wonder if we're gonna get more from her. I hope we do, because I want to know more like about her as a person. All right, I finished the book, and I feel really similarly as I did with Chloe Brown. On paper, this sounds like something I should enjoy, which is why it was recommended to me to begin with. My sad feelings about not liking this have nothing to do with me, but the experience as a whole. It's like, I don't care that I spent one afternoon of my life reading this. It's that like, watching me even on episode 4 still trudging through books and not liking them, and also it feels like I'm saying the recommendations were flawed. Like, this is just not a good feeling for me to be in. But it was similar to Chloe Brown as far as the stakes are low. It's a more lighthearted book, and it also had a love interest that I did not like, and very high sexual content, low anything else. It makes me feel like I'm back to square one, not just at the beginning of this experiment, but where I was at reading romance like 5 years ago, and all of these like sexual encounters making me uncomfortable because of like the consent. And I struggle with sharing this opinion because I don't want to infantilize Stella in any way. Because I understand she is a consenting individual. However, there were multiple occasions where she would verbally say, no, I don't want to do this. And because we're getting his thought process, he'll say things like, well, I know I know she consented to this before, or I take her kiss as consent. So like, as a reader, it is fine and not something that should bother me, but I can't fully get invested in a scene if I'm questioning if Stella wants to be there, because she is enjoying herself like a couple, you know, sentences later. But him saying things like, oh, I'm just gonna do it anyway because I know she'll like it, she's just nervous, she's just uncomfortable, and this idea of like making her anxiety go away because like he's so good in bed, like that's kind of the implication of some things. But I think the book accomplishes what it sets out to do, and her journey, she gets what she wants in the end. She is obviously head over heels for this guy, so like, I'm happy for them. And understanding that this is a highly rated, highly recommended book, like, again, I know that you're gonna tell me my feelings are valid regardless, but I do feel like sharing negative opinions on romance is just a dangerous place for me to be. I also don't want to sound like a broken record of things that I've talked about in videos already, so I'm just gonna end it there. I'm giving it a 2. We'll just see how the next book goes. Okay, I'm starting Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. First thing I'll say, beautifully matches my sweater today. today. No, the actual first thing is I'm glad I didn't really read into the synopsis too much, and I'm just going based off of the description that was given to me. Because I didn't know like the kind of inciting incident that gets these two characters together, and I just wasn't expecting it, and I loved it. So she has this podcast and she's talking about players at school, and she kind of targets this one specific guy, and then he calls her out for doing kind of a similar thing, but just under the radar. Like she's secretly hooking up with guys. Sorry, my family's here. I need to stop talking about romantic things. We're gonna go to the pumpkin patch. So I'll update you more when I'm there and alone. Okay, but what I was saying was just the initial moment that they have, the kiss that they share, that is talked about in the synopsis. I wasn't expecting it, and I just loved how that was all written. And now I'm excited to see the relationship that they build from here, because they're gonna be in kind of a fake relationship, which I already knew, but it's pretty clear at this point they already have feelings for each other. Like they already find each other incredibly attractive. There's great chemistry and banter right off the bat, so it's not gonna be one where like, obviously their feelings are gonna develop, but it's not like they're just friends or they're enemies right from the get-go. Like they're already like kind of into each other. Now I don't wanna get ahead of myself here because we're only a third of the way in, but I just am sitting here thinking about how much I love this book. Can I tell you guys how much this book has been taking over my feed this week? Like especially today. It is everywhere. Like everyone is posting about this book. Everyone's in love with it. Sponsored posts, just personal posts, reviews, just got it in the mail. Like it's everywhere. And I just love it because I feel like this is the first time I felt like I'm currently reading something that I wouldn't normally read, that other people are actively reading, and we're all liking it. Obviously, there are so many different identity things at play that make this a completely unique story, but this really is like the adult, not the adult version of To All the Boys I've Loved Before, but if you loved this as a teen, this is your adult version. The dynamic, the banter is incredible. And I just got to the scene where they're like making the contract and planning out how their fake dating is going to go and all of their rules. And that's the best part of a fake dating book. And I also love when a book is leading up to a big event. So I don't know that this is going to do that, but it's referencing the Afro Winter Ball in December. And they're saying that 8 weeks from now that's happening, and they should probably be broken up by then. They're negotiating and they have the same back and forth where she's like, this is non-negotiable, and then he's like, okay, well you have to come all the parties with me because we need to socialize and I know you're not used to that. I love Malachi and I love Kiki equally, and I'm just so happy. Okay, halfway through, I can't even like sit up for an update. They are just so perfect for each other, and he is this typical just like good guy who has kind of a bad reputation, and he's doing all of these super nice things. Like, I don't want to give anything away, but she's really into books and he shows an interest, you know, like basic things your partner should do to love and support you. But the fact that they're not dating, they're fake dating, and he is showing her so much affection and showing her that he cares in all of these ways. Part of me is worried that he's gonna fuck something up, but I don't know. I trust this book, but what I need is for her to reciprocate, because clearly she's interested, but I need her to do a grand gesture, because there have been a couple things that he has done and I want to love her for him as much as I love him for her. And so that's what I need. But I'm sitting here underlining things. Like, I love it. I don't watch romance content, so I don't know what's normal to talk about. But I don't know, I just feel like the sex scene, no notes. No, I'm not done yet. But I just want to say that the way this book handles conflict is exactly like how all books should do it, and I'm not even like intelligent enough to explain what it's doing. But this book is not without some drama. There's some stuff with old friendships. There is some residual trauma going on, certain aspects in their life. There's some issues with family, but those things don't take up entire scenes. And the way that they're handled is between each other. Yes, this is a romance. The majority of scenes, these characters are together in the scene, but they do each have their own individual conversations and situations outside of the relationship, but not very much. And when things are going on outside of them as a fake couple, or now like an actual couple, I don't know, they're always there to support each other through those moments. And the tension is there for a reason, and it gets resolved enough and in a realistic way that we can move on to the next scene smoothly. I don't want to overhype this book because maybe there are some people who wouldn't like this, but I can't imagine who, and I don't want to undersell it. It's so good. Like, I have a 5-star romance. We can cancel the whole video experiment. And not just 5 stars, but I'm here thinking to myself, is a romance book about to be in my top 10 books of the year? Like, that's how much I'm loving this book, and it's just a great feeling. I finished it. It was 5 stars. I like, honestly, Reese's book club picks actually getting high ratings from me this year is a little bit shocking and makes me want to prioritize some other things on my shelves. So maybe there will be a video idea. It's hard to tell you exactly what I loved so much in here. Like, it was just everything. It was the characters, it was their dynamic, it was what they cared about outside of their dynamic. I loved learning about the podcast. I loved everybody who was supporting each other. I feel like there were really good moments where in other books, certain characters would have been villainized or certain extreme moments would have occurred, but it was all pretty chill. And I just feel like this is an author that I can trust, which is cool. Then I made the mistake of reading some reviews. I just thought everybody loved this. And some people are saying that they didn't like the amount of spice in here. I don't like using spice to refer to the amount of sex in a book. But there definitely is not much. It's really just that one scene. But then someone else was saying it's very like juvenile and young, which makes sense because the characters are 20. And I was like, they were 20? I don't remember them talking about their age at all. But I guess that like checks out with what stage of university they're in. I don't know anything about North American university times and ages, let alone in the UK. And then some people said it was very like Gen Z humor and language, and I don't know. All I know is in my romance journey, this is the winner. Don't stop watching the video in the series though. Promise? I'm reading my last book today. It is The Boyfriend Project by Farah Rashan. We're currently at the ski hill, so I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to sit in the nice, cozy lodge and read some of this. But first, we gotta get all suited up and maybe a little... maybe a little montage. Okay, so far here's where I'm at. It's feeling like a mix of John Tucker Must Die plus that like Best Friends movie with Zac Efron and Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan. So there's like a group of women at the beginning of the book who get wronged by the same man, and they all like become friends after, and now they're this little group of like women supporting women. I love the first chapter. I love the initial setup, and now our main character has dreams of running an app where you can make friends, and all of these women are going to support her, and so far it's just like a really fun story. She has met a man, but now all the girls are making an agreement that they're not going to get involved with any men because they have been wronged. So her getting feelings for somebody is a problem because she can't tell her new friend group. All right, by the end of the day, I got 100 pages in to my book, which is pretty good. Samaya works a kind of tech job, and at her office, there's this guy who just started there, and his name is Daniel, and he is there with kind of like undercover, not police FBI type level, but he's not there just in good faith having a job. And Samaya is just so irresistible that he doesn't plan on engaging with any of the employees there, but he just can't help himself. So I am a little bit worried about how it's gonna go because he's keeping things from her, and so there's already like betrayal going on. And my hope is that he lets her in on the scheme and she doesn't find out herself like at the end of the book, and that's the third act conflict. I'm assuming that's what's gonna happen. So on one hand, I feel like I don't really love the undercover vibes because it's going to lead to deception. It already is in a place of deception, and I don't love that in general. But it's kind of feeling like a cozy mystery because he's trying to figure something out at the company, and that's kind of fun. In general, I would say I'm really enjoying it, but we'll see the direction that it goes. Okay, we're home now. I'm actually 50 pages from the end, so I needed to update you before I officially finish it. But it's going very well. It's very fun. I feel like the insta love is a little bit rampant. Things are happening just a little too quickly and easily, but it is fun. The steam is at a good level, and I'm actually really excited to read on in the series, which is not something I feel like I've said about any book in this video series so far, but like I want to read these ones because I've already been introduced to these women. And it's so interesting because I didn't actually realize the hookup plan was a part of this series. I almost put it in my 5-star predictions video, and then I decided to save it for the Goodreads video because I thought it would be on there, and it wasn't. I think that one having to do with fake dating is gonna be really fun, and I just wonder if the writing will improve a little bit throughout the series. Not to be like mean, but it's just a little too easy, and it's making me worried for the end of this because I feel like the resolution is gonna come too easily. And something that I've realized about me and romance is the most successful third act conflict breakup resolutions for me have been the books that you know not what the conflict is going to be itself, but how the resolution is going to come to be. Like, you know the characters well enough by the end to know how they're going to come back together, how they're going to react when certain reveals happen. And I think the way you accomplish that is by creating little conflicts throughout the book and giving us a moment to see how the characters are going to respond to certain things. That's what makes the resolution moment the most realistic, is when you have gotten into the mind of these people enough to know what's to come. And I don't feel like that has been successful in this. There hasn't been enough that they've had to work through yet that I trust how the resolution's going to happen. I feel like it's just gonna be over very quickly and just like, oh, whatever. I don't find their personalities to have been extremely well established. They are responding differently to different things throughout the entire thing. Like, sometimes she's strong-willed and badass and isn't gonna take any shit, and sometimes she's just like very meek and just like, oh, whatever, I don't care. And obviously we can speak to the duality of human beings, but I don't feel like I'm gonna love the ending of this, even though right now I'm having a good time. I'm gonna give this a 4.25. Despite not loving the ending and how quickly everything wrapped up, it was exactly as I predicted. This really did remind me of a cozy mystery, like something just for fun, something silly, not with a lot of substance, but a mystery going through the entire thing because this guy is solving something. So there was definitely something to care about outside of the romance. It was written in third person, but we had distinct chapters focused on each of the two, Samaya and Daniel. It was also a little bit low in drama, which, considering the subject matter, was surprising. But for me and my emotional well-being, I guess I was okay with it. There was so much workplace stuff, talk about the projects they're working on, her desire to branch out, but she's given different opportunities at work, so she's battling with like, how do I put time and energy into myself and the things that I want versus like making a paycheck that I require to live. It was a good time and I consider it a win. So overall, the recommendations that I got, it's tough because like my two least favorites and my, oh my god, all-time favorite were from the same person. So obviously I still love my TBR.co, and that recommendation, the custom recommendations you get, it's just so good. It really feels personal. It really feels like people take into account everything that you've talked about, as they should. I mean, it's a paid service. The other two were free, and I'm so glad that these services exist, that they are even a thing, that anybody who actually needs recommendations, they have an outlet to get them. I mean, I did need the recommendations because I didn't know what I would like. Along with The Boyfriend Project, the other two that were recommended, there's a historical, there's a paranormal, and I don't think I'll fully know how I feel about that recommendation list until I read the other two. And then from the library, I mean, one of their recommendations was also Beach Read, which I enjoyed. So I have to give a thumbs up to that. Also, they recommended Amiya Sosa, and in tomorrow's video you'll find out what I thought about this one, even though it wasn't the one that they technically recommended. But I think at this point we have to call it and say that this set of recommendations was the most successful. Over me picking them for myself, community recommended, and obviously my own 5-star predictions. I'm not gonna spoil how the Goodreads video is gonna go, though I am gonna show you my TBR in just a sec. I guess this one is tied with the community recommendations, which just means I should listen to other people. Because the biggest win of this is I would read from all of these authors again. I'm going to read, I think, Eve Brown. I do want to read from Lukov with Love. I'm going to continue in this series. I already bought another Bolu Babalola. I know this isn't romance, but I actually was interested in this one before I had even heard of this. And then I think Helen Huang has only written this series. There's 3 books in it. But if she writes anything else, I'd probably pick it up just to give it a go. I feel like at this part in the series, I have already talked through all of the learnings that I've had, though I am doing a spoiler video for channel members talking through all of the books that I read, any plot points that I feel like I want to talk through, things I didn't want to spoil in the regular videos. And within that, I think I'll do a tier ranking of everything. I'll discuss like realizations more definitively, and also probably a list of like my personal icks. But tomorrow's TBR, what do you think, knowing what you know now about my taste? Which of these is going to be a win? Which isn't? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you there. Bye.